Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rome.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, the Iranian Navy has sent warships through the Atlantic Ocean. In a disturbing act of defiance, several Iranian warships have been ordered to patrol the U.S. maritime border. The commander of Iran's Northern Naval Fleet, Admiral Afshin Razai Haddad, said the movement was meant to send a message to the United States. Just hours before the announcement, Ayatollah Khamenei released a statement saying that the United States has a controlling and meddlesome attitude towards Iran. This latest aggression by Tehran is especially troublesome as it comes on the heels of the release of a frightening documentary which shows Iranian drones attacking the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, as well as downing American aircraft and striking U.S. military interest in the Persian Gulf. The video shows the sinking of the ship and implies the deaths of thousands of American soldiers. Erin Viner has more on the story.
Yes, Yochanan. Despite the generous sanctions relief granted by the P5+1 nations, Iran continues to sound the drums of war. The Islamic Republic aired a documentary on state television called Nightmare of a Vulture, featuring simulated attacks on Israel and U.S. interests in the Middle East. The extensive computerized video showed Iranian drones and missiles striking a major Israeli military compound in Tel Aviv, the city's Azrieli Tower complex, Ben Gurion International Airport, the northern coastal city of Haifa, and the USS Abraham Lincoln. The simulation was narrated by the voice of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, spewing anti-Israeli and anti-American rhetoric.
U.S. President Barack Obama has celebrated a small victory by delaying further sanctions against Iran. After threatening to veto any bill which would further deter Iran's nuclear program with new sanctions, several key Democrats in favor of the legislation have now backed off. Numerous members of Congress have proposed ratcheting up sanctions to keep the hardline Islamic Republic from developing a nuclear weapon. This move has put them in opposition with the Obama administration, which is attempting to negotiate with Iran on its rogue nuclear program. The lawmakers fear that loosening the sanctions will allow Iran to buy enough time to create a nuclear weapon.
President Obama's recent State of the Union address was overshadowed by information offered to the Senate Intelligence Committee, demonstrating progress by the hardline Islamic Republic toward the development of nuclear weapons, despite the facade of negotiating with the West. While presenting the annual report on the Worldwide Threat Assessment, National Intelligence Director James Clapper testified that Tehran has made technical advancements in a number of areas, including uranium enrichment, nuclear reactors, and ballistic missiles, already possessing the breakout capacity necessary to produce missiles capable of carrying nuclear weapons.
A recent poll reveals that 70% of Israelis do not trust America under the Obama administration. According to the survey, the majority of Israelis do not think that the United States, under its current leadership, will protect Israel's security interest in any proposed peace agreement. 67% of Israelis agreed with those critical of U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, who recently enraged Israeli society by suggesting that if peace negotiations were to break down, Israel would likely suffer from an international boycott and another bloody intifada.
The former chief of the United States Central Intelligence Agency says that anti-Semitism could be the reason that Jonathan Pollard remains in prison. James Woolsey told an Israeli news station that other Americans caught spying served short sentences, while Pollard was sentenced to life in prison after being caught passing intel to Israel, an ally of the United States. Woolsey said that he believes anti-Semitism is at work in the case. Pollard is the only American citizen ever sentenced to life in prison for spying for an ally, as well as the only one to be sentenced to more than 10 years for committing such a crime. Israel has long requested that Pollard's life sentence be commuted to the 29 years he's already served. Many U.S. politicians, including those involved in Pollard's trial, have come forward asking the U.S. government for his release. Several analysts believe that the Obama administration is using Pollard's release as a bargaining chip in the current U.S.-brokered peace negotiations.
The Spanish Parliament has passed a reading of a draft bill which proposes to offer Spanish citizenship to the descendants of Sephardic Jews who were expelled from Spain in 1492. In that year, hundreds of thousands of Jews were forced from Spain when King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella declared that Jews must convert to Catholicism or leave. Spanish Jews fled to several countries throughout Europe, including Israel, France, Turkey, Argentina, and Chile. Many of the Sephardic Jews retained their unique Jewish Spanish culture and their language, Ladino, which is a mix of Hebrew and Spanish. The Spanish government has already approved a list of Sephardic family names that will be able to apply for Spanish citizenship, and the bill will allow approved applicants to hold dual Spanish citizenship. Alberto Ruiz Gallardón, the Spanish Justice Minister, said this law has a deep historic meaning, not only because it concerns events in our past of which we should not be proud, like the decree to expel the Jews in 1492, but it also reflects the reality of Spain as an open and plural society. The former chief Sephardic rabbi of Israel, Shlomo Amar, said this step is a small-scale correction of the great injustice that was committed during the Inquisition and throughout the ages.
A Greek member of parliament went on an anti-Semitic rant and has publicly accused his country's prime minister of conspiring with the Jews. Theodoros Karipidis said that Greek Prime Minister Antonis Samaras is at the head of a Jewish plot to visit a new Hanukkah against the Greeks. Hanukkah is the Jewish holiday that celebrates the Maccabean victory over the armies of Antiochus Epiphanes, who attempted to ban the observance of Judaism in Israel. Karipidis' comments demonstrate the increasingly anti-Semitic sentiment currently spreading throughout Greece. A spokesperson for the Greek Prime Minister condemned the allegations as unacceptable, racist, and anti-Semitic, and the director of the American Jewish Committee observed that vile, outrageous expressions of anti-Semitism in Greece are coming not only from the far-right, neo-Nazi parties, but also from the far left, as is the case with the parliamentary member.
Southern Israel continues to be pounded by rockets fired from Gaza. Palestinian terrorists loyal to Hamas have fired rockets into Israel nearly every day for the past several weeks. Israel has responded with precision strikes against the terrorist infrastructure in Gaza. The IDF has destroyed 3 major Hamas outposts in the Gaza region in the past 2 weeks, and the Israeli Air Force fired on and directly hit a 28-year-old terrorist as he was riding his motorcycle in the Gaza Strip. Abdullah Harti, a member of the Popular Resistance Committee and Global Jihad, was involved in numerous terrorist attacks against Israel. Palestinian sources confirm that the terrorist was seriously wounded in the strike.
Israeli military intelligence chief Brigadier General Aviv Kochavi has warned that at least 170,000 rockets threaten Israel. Speaking at an annual think tank conference in Tel Aviv, Kochavi said that in his opinion, the missile threat presents the most pressing danger to the state of Israel at this time. He prioritized the 4 most urgent threats to Israel's security as the increase of advanced rockets pointed at the Jewish state, the Iranian nuclear threat, the exponential increase of cyber warfare, and the presence of jihadist elements along Israel's borders. The Brigadier General praised the Israeli intelligence community, particularly its cyber warfare division, for their tireless work in the defense of the State of Israel.
The Jewish community of Russia joined together with the Israeli Olympic delegation in Sochi to remember the victims of the 1972 Munich Olympic massacre. On September 5, 1972, Palestinian terrorists kidnapped and held the Israeli Olympic delegation hostage. 11 Israelis were eventually brutally murdered by the Muslim extremists. For 42 years, families of the victims have petitioned the International Olympic Committee to hold a moment of silence for the fallen athletes at the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games. The Olympic Committee, however, has steadfastly refused to do so. Israel and Jewish communities independently organize memorial events at the Summer and Winter Olympics so that the world will never forget the victims of Palestinian terror at the 1972 Munich Olympics.
And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here on location on Capitol Hill. My guest today is Michelle Bachmann, member of Congress from the great state of Minnesota. Michelle, thank you for being on the show.
Josh, thank you. It's a privilege to be with you today.
Congressman Bachmann, you're one of the most pro-Israel congresswomen in the Congress.
And proud to be so.
You're a member of the Congressional Israel Allies Caucus. You've been on many trips to Israel to see it for yourself, what's really going on there. Why, as an American congresswoman, is it so important for you to stand with the state of Israel?
Well, because the United States of America, I believe, has been singularly blessed because we have had Israel's back since Israel's inception in 1948 as the modern Jewish state of Israel. Harry Truman, Democrat president, 11 minutes after Israel declared her sovereignty, the United States recognized Israel's right to exist. That was the wisest thing that the United States could do, send a signal to the world that we're with Israel. What's very troubling to me right now is that for the first time since 1948, the United States is sending unmistakable signals through the Obama administration that the United States may no longer have Israel's back. That has profound negative consequences for the Jewish state of Israel and her sovereignty and security, but I believe it also has profound consequences for the United States of America too. And so I'm going to stand up. The Bible teaches us in the Old Testament that we must not be silent when it comes to Israel's defense, and I will not be silent in the face of this uncertainty.
We're seeing unprecedented pressure coming from the Obama administration. The people of America, according to all the polls, are standing really firmly with Israel, as well as the Congress, yet this pressure is coming out in ways that we've never experienced before. Secretary of State John Kerry just recently called for an intifada if the peace negotiations don't go through, or a boycott from Europe. These are things that we've never experienced. Where is this pressure coming from?
It's really unique, isn't it? Because since 1948, a Democrat president, Harry Truman, did the wisest thing that he possibly could do and the most powerful thing that he could possibly do. And that is declare that the United States recognized the sovereignty of the Jewish state of Israel. That was the world's superpower, the United States, standing behind this newborn modern Jewish state. Now, every country in the world has known since 1948 that the United States had Israel's back. This is the first time in American history that an American president has sent signals to the world that that alliance may not be as strong as it once was. Because let's face it, what is it the Obama administration has said? They've called essentially for a third war by the Palestinians against Israel, a war, a military conflict, and second, for economic sanctions, boycott, sanctions, divestment from Israel. Now, isn't this ironic? Here, on one hand, the United States of America, for the first time, is saying to Iran, the rogue nation of the world, we will lift economic sanctions, we will lift boycotts, we will lift divestment against a nation that has violated UN resolutions and is clearly on its path to develop nuclear weapons to use against Israel and against America, while at the same time, a peaceful nation, the Jewish state of Israel, the United States is already talking about economic sanctions, boycotts, divestment. So the United States is rewarding a rogue nation like Iran with ambitions to gain nuclear weaponry, while at the same time punishing the Jewish state of Israel. This is the great irony of our time, but it speaks volumes about the Obama administration's lack of support for the Jewish state of Israel.
You bring up a great point with Iran. Everyone assumed that America had Israel's back on the Iranian question, and then recently capitulated in this new deal. The front
enabling.
The headlines in Tehran was America defeated. Mm-hmm. Where is this coming from? The Congress has been pushing this sanction sanctions against Iran that have been so effective, why all of a sudden has it unraveled, and why aren't we hearing something from the Congress against this?
Well, you have heard a lot from the Congress, because you have a lot of people saying this is absolute craziness to pull back on sanctions from Iran. The reason why Iran even went to the negotiating table is because of the sanctions. That's why we should have gotten something out of it. We haven't gotten anything out of it, because right now Iran is literally getting billions of dollars flowing into its economy, as well as new contracts to bring about economic viability for a state that continues to spin centrifuges and enrich uranium and continuing to do research and development, missile development, so that one day Iran will realize its dream of having a nuclear weapon to use against both Israel and the United States, while at the same time Israel has bent over backwards and made concession after concession to the Palestinians, including releasing terrorist thugs from its prison, terrorists who targeted innocent civilians in Israel and in fact killed innocent Israelis. So Israel has released murderous thugs for what? So that the Palestinians would come to the table and negotiate, and when they're at the table they refuse to negotiate. This is madness that the world is demanding of Israel. Israel is always considered the bad guy on the world stage, and I think we need to bring a huge dose of reality into this paradigm of negotiations and recognize where Israel is at in the world.
Congressman Bachmann, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
I think that the audience in the world needs to understand that this is not the time to be silent for Israel. Israel has threats on its north from the terrorist organization known as Hezbollah, from Al-Qaeda coming out of Syria, from Jordan as well. There's threats that Jordan is looking at. Egypt is the one bright spot in that we have a new, more secular-oriented government, but Israel's in a very precarious situation, especially made so because the United States of America, under the Obama administration, is no longer sending the clear signal that the United States has its back. We need to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We need to pray for Israel, but as members of Congress and as the public across the world, we need to demand that our leadership stand and have Israel's back. Israel is taking the actions for what is right in bringing about peace. The Palestinians are taking actions that only bring about war. This is a clear line of demarcation, and we need to stand up and recognize and applaud Israel when Israel is doing what's right for peace in the Middle East region.
Thank you, Congressman Bachmann, for being on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
صباح الخير.
29-year-old Rafiz Zaghloul rises with the sun in the West Bank Palestinian village of Hizmeh. Most of the town's 6,000 residents depend on the local agriculture for their income. Not Rafi. He has a job at a factory some 15 kilometers away and is never late. He heads off to work every morning, leaving his family and his neighbors behind. Each day, a bus chartered by his Israeli employer, SodaStream, collects him and a few other workers from the nearby towns. Along the way, they pass several Palestinian villages, eventually crossing an Israeli checkpoint and arriving in Mishor Adumim and the SodaStream plant, which is one of 20 SodaStream factories around the world.
أنا بحب الصودا ستريم، أشتغل في الصودا ستريم لأن بنخدم الصبح بنخدم المغربيات وبنحب بعضنا كإخوان كعائلة واحدة في الصودا ستريم كمشبحة.
Inside, Rafe joins the other workers, nearly 1,000 of them, assembling soda makers to be sold around the world, which turn tap water into soda or any other fizzy drink, eliminating the need for billions of bottles and cans that are hazardous to the environment. And SodaStream is among the largest private employers in the West Bank, where unemployment can reach 30%. But unlike any other large-scale Israeli factory, almost half of those working here are, like Rafe, Palestinians from the West Bank, something SodaStream's CEO Daniel Birnbaum is very proud of.
We give them an opportunity to not only have a job and health insurance, but also social benefits and a very high pay scale, which they could never achieve in the West Bank.
Pay that's often 4 or 5 times what they'd earn elsewhere, enough to convince people like Mina Suleiman, a mother of 2 from Ramallah, to join.
عادي كنت أعرف إنها شركة كبيرة يعني وسمعتها منيحة وبيحكوا منظمة وهيك عشان هيك حبيت أشتغل فيها. يعني سمعت إنها شركة يعني كتير منيحة وهيك سمعت حبيت أشتغل.
We've created a system working with the administration around here that makes it seamless for the Palestinians to leave their homes in the West Bank, or in their village, and come here across the wall where they're well received and well respected and well paid.
Muhammad Baroum, a father of 3, left a career in high-tech to join SodaStream 4 years ago. He is currently in charge of 400 people.
מנהל ייצור של חברת סודה של המכשירים הוא ערבי. אז אין פה עד כדי כך שאין בכלל אפליה. זאת אומרת, בטופ לבל של ההנהלה פה הוא יושב ערבי שמאיתנו, פלסטיני.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
There is a great need in Israel today, whether it's Holocaust survivors, youth at risk, or new immigrants. Our vision is to build relationships, to foster reconciliation, and to reach out with God's love by responding to the social needs that come across our desk every single day. Through the projects that we do, we hope to provide a better future for the people of Israel and to reach out with hope to those who need it most.
Already for more than 30 years, the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, is reaching out all over the land, from the north to the south, from the east to the west, to reach those people that are in need. And these people are, of course, the Jewish people who live in this land. But we've also been reaching out to the Christian Arab, to the Muslims, to the Bedouin, and to the Druze that are part of the population of Israel. The ICJ has the incredible privilege to be part in the establishment and also the ongoing expansion of the assisted living community for Holocaust survivors in Haifa. Not only find aging survivors a home, but the Christian support and involvement has touched their lives deeply and is giving them new hope.
I'm very happy when I see people who come, Christians from around the world who come to visit us. They're interested in how we live and they help us. I'm very happy when I see them. It reminds me of my youth. It does something good to my soul. It makes me very happy and I appreciate those who come. They truly deserve a thank you from the Jewish people to know that there are still good people in the world.
We've been engaged in educational programs and vocational training that enables young people, women, and minorities to get the tools that they need to have a better future and to break out of the cycle of poverty.
Do you know what does it mean to be an educated person in the Ethiopian community? It's a big professor. They saw their expectation is they can change their whole life. Here, we come here, the reality is different. You have to be educated one, to manage your family and to grow your children, to be successful, to keep the country.
I want to study, not all the time, but I want to get to the stage where I know everything. And there is no such stage.
We've been excited to reach out to the children of Israel through various projects. 2 of them were children's homes, where the kids who live in these homes have been removed from their own families for various reasons. Could be because they're orphaned, or they went through some sort of trauma, or other family difficulties. But the first home, the dormitories were in very, very bad disrepair, and we were able to remodel this home and make it a wonderful living space for the children. And in the other, the children had no place to play, and so we were able to put in a new playground for them and help them just rediscover the joys of their childhood.
You just learned about some of the projects the International Christian Embassy is carrying out here in Israel. And I want to personally invite you to partner with the Christian Embassy to bless the Jewish people like never before. We are your embassy here in Jerusalem, and may the Lord bless you greatly out of Zion.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.